These ruins are named for early homesteader George Lowry. George was exceptionally cooperative with the government to preserve these ruins that we see now. The Lowry and Painted Hands ruins are located north of Square Tower Group. All the ruins shown here were of the ancient Anasazi culture that spread across southern Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and this area. This village illustration was drawn by Paul Martin as part of a government survey. These are the primary rooms, not the many outside adjacent rooms as shown in the video. Observe the 5 kivas. The large kiva below number 3 has been restored, and we will visit it. The grand kiva to the lower left, local farmers took exposed sandstone bricks for personal use, as was the practice wherever these ruins were located. The worst example are the Hovenweep Ruins in northern Arizona by Winslow, where only foundations remain of once a very, very large village. It is now a state park. People arrived here approximately 600 CE, building pit houses, whose first floor was located below ground level about 1 meter. Construction began in 1089. At its peak, it had an estimated population of 100 families, or about 400 people, during 1100 and 1300 AD. Ironically, there is no open plaza for community festivals or meetings. When viewing these ruins, it is difficult to imagine how this small population constructed this huge village. Of these 400 residents, about 200 may have been adult men, wearing plant-based sandals. There were no Nikes then. There is no nearby quarry for these stones, so the distance is unknown. They had no wheels, wagons, metal tools to cut and shape these stones. They climbed fragile wooden ladders to carry the stones and mortar upward to the top. Add that there is no near source of water for consumption or making mortar between the stones. The pails were clay pottery. Notice the different size of stone, especially the upper left corner of the entry. That narrow style is typical of Chaco construction. Thus, it is possible to date construction by stone style. The wall is aligned such that during summer solstice, on 20 or 21 June, there is no visible shadow at sunrise and throughout the day. The shadow you see here was 2 days after solstice. There are various stone layers displayed, but of an interest are the 2 horizontal lines of dark stone. They appear to have significance, as it does not appear anywhere else in Lowry. It does appear at the Aztec ruin. Logs were placed in these holes to support a second floor or story. The ruins from here onward reflect those we saw on the other side, so we'll not visit them. As with all orally derived religions, they are very complex. This narration of the Anasazi religion and social tradition is shamefully condensed. The purpose of a kiva is to bind the living with their ancestors and gods, plus preserving the 4th phase when they exited to the earth's surface from below. That emergence progressed in 4 long phases. The kiva rear signifies the first world where life began, symbolized by a fire pit. The altar is the second phase, symbolizing the dark era. A ceiling opening reflects the third world, where the people received light and a path to Earth's surface. Finally, the fourth phase, the people emerged to the surface, where their gods commanded them to spread across the earth. That exit, named Sipapu, is located in the Little Colorado River near Grand Canyon boundary. But all life in the fourth world must end. When a person died, her spirit would once again enter the kiva and continue back to the underworld via the Sipapu hole. There, the gods would walk and talk with him or her about the mysteries of the world, etc. Priest, shaman in a kiva would interact with those gods by prayer, dance, and spirits represented by their many kachina doll masks, well over 200. At 50 feet diameter, 15.3 meters, it overwhelms all other kivas in the area except the restored kiva at Aztec ruins. As such, it becomes credible evidence that this kiva was the most important kiva in the area that, in turn, may have created and sustained this village. Notice the fire pit in the near center. Also, the location where 4 vertical posts were located to support the roof. Observe the seating area that was missing inside the kiva. Notice the size of the post foundation. It is huge. It is not known if it was a single vertical tree log or a composite of wood and mortar as used at the Aztec ruin. The composite design is more durable and mitigates roof wind motion. Academically, Lowry Pueblo was first discovered in 1918 by Jesse Fewkes of the Smithsonian and published his research on 23 January 1919, as we have referenced in the introductory text. In 1928, archaeologist Paul Martin visited these ruins that inspired him to return for a few years in the early 1930s to excavate them. He had no machines. Therefore, he used shovels, wheelbarrows, buckets, and ladders. Horse-drawn wagons relocated the excavated dirt. In the 1960s, 70s, and 74 through 75, the Bureau of Land Management, BLM, continued preservation, stabilization, and added a roof. Consider the extensive manual labor required to uncover these rooms while being very cautious not to damage or collapse the walls, especially the inner room walls. Since there were no metal tools, sharp stone axes were used to cut these logs at the forest and, of course, here. Transportation was another major problem. Observe the mural's artistic pattern that repeats itself. It can be assumed that most kivas were decorated using this pattern. Tito Nahrano suggests that this is a cloud symbol that they name Iwifin, I-W-I-F-I-N, in their language. This is an original at the Canyons of the Ancients Visitor Center and Museum in Dolores, Colorado. Unlike most kivas, there does not appear to be a sitting area. The purpose of the logs appears to be storage shelves for religious costumes, masks, and artifacts. There were 34 grave sites found in this area. 4 the body was flexed and 10 were extended. Amazingly, the depth was from 1 to 3 feet deep. Painted Hands was a small village of about 20 rooms located approximately 8 miles north of the Hovenweep. It was constructed around 1200 AD. The trail to these ruins from the parking lot is easy, very well maintained, and about 700 yards in length. It ends at a small rim to the ruins themselves. There are many signs to guide you. This is the tower ruin. It is the largest in the area. The window implies multiple stories. Unfortunately, there's no access to the interior to confirm that. The foundation for this tower is this rock, which is typical for large ruins here, Hovenweep. We were surprised to find this white layer of rock here, expecting red or other color. The pictographs here consist of faded hands. Faded. Don't know why, because always shaded from the sun. When finished, continue walking away where there are other ruins and an exit to the top. This large boulder has no petroglyphs or pictographs, which we fully expected. The trail to the top is visible next to this rock. Minor rock scrambling will be required at the end. This is a most unusual ruin situated essentially in a balancing rock. Obviously, it was not a good place as there's nothing left.